I returned to that home. Looking at the lady's high heels placed at the door, I hesitated whether to go in. The owner of the high heels was enthusiastic and poked her head out of the kitchen. It turned out to be classmate Lou. "Come in quickly. The slippers are in the shoe cabinet." At that moment, I thought I was a guest. I changed my shoes and walked to the living room. The woman brought out a plate of home-cooked dishes. She was gentle and virtuous. "Alan said you were discharged from the hospital today. I came over to cook you a meal and hold a small welcome party." I looked at her. The woman had a graceful figure and elegant manners. I asked her, "The Alan you are talking about, is it Lin Ching?" The woman nodded, "Yes." I was surprised. "Ah? Then didn't we bump into each other's husbands?" The woman's face was a little complicated. "How can you say that, classmate Lou? Alan and I are just old classmates." I said, "Do you think my brain is stuck in the door like Lin Ching?" The woman was silent. She rolled up her hair and chuckled. "Why did you misunderstand classmate Lou?" I picked up the bowl and chopsticks and ate a bite of the food. I nodded, "Yes, okay, mistress." Halfway through the meal, I suddenly felt my face burning. I looked up and saw that it was the person opposite me who was so angry. I should say that this person's cooking skills are very good. I finished 2 large bowls of rice. I heard from Lynn that classmate Lou has lost his memory. The woman gradually regained her ladylike appearance. "Then let me introduce myself again. My name is Sue Ran. I am Lynn and your high school classmate." I said, "Oh," and put down the bowl and chopsticks. "I'm done. You go wash the dishes." Sue Ran's perfect smile cracked again. "Sorry, classmate Lou, I'm not your nanny." She gritted her teeth. I was shocked. "You are not a nanny, but you come to my house to cook for me. How come you have a crush on me?" She looked at me with complicated eyes. "Classmate Lou, how did you become like this?" My hand wiping my mouth paused slightly. Suddenly I remembered that Lin Ching had a similar problem. How did I become like this? I asked the system in my mind, what was my mission before I lost my memory? I thought the system would continue to play dead, but it actually answered me. It was to capture Lin Ching. I exhaled a breath of foul air. No wonder. I must have had a hard time before I lost my memory, right? Tying your life to a person is the most dangerous and disturbing thing. Even if you are cautious and scheming, you can't guarantee that he loves you. I wiped my mouth, put down the tissue, chuckled, and looked at Sue Ran. Who knows? Sue Ran still went to wash the dishes. After washing, she hugged her chest and looked at me and said, "Lou, you are also a book crosser, right?" I looked up in surprise. "I'll get straight to the point and make it clear." Sue Ran said, "Lou Ran, give Lin Ching to me." It started to rain heavily outside the window. The leaves slammed and hit the leaves, making a very loud sound. I didn't say anything. Sue Ran continued, "If I fail to capture Lin Ching, I will die." Her eyes gradually turned red, so pitiful, but I don't want to die. I finally have parents and Lou Ran who love me in this world. You have no parents in this world, and you are alone. There is nothing to miss. And Lin doesn't seem to like you that much. Why don't you give him to me? Finally, she said, "I will be grateful to you for the rest of my life." I was speechless for a moment and didn't know how to respond. "Why do you want me to give him to you?" I said, "Maybe he likes you too." He gave her the key to this home. I don't believe that Lin Ching really has no feelings for her. Sue Ran shook her head. "I don't want to like him, I want to love him." A person can like many people, but can only love one person. This really involves my blind spot and knowledge. I sighed and compromised. "I will divorce him." Sue Ran was overjoyed. "Thank you," she said. I shook my head. Before she left, I told her out of friendship, if you are in danger of your life, maybe you can negotiate with the system to exchange life points. Sue Ran looked at me blankly. Negotiate with the system? She smiled and shook her head. How is it possible? The system is a machine without emotions. Any life is just an ant in its eyes. Even if our group of book crossers dies, there will be another group. My heart beat twice. I just felt creepy. The rain outside stopped. The air was filled with dampness. Looking at the empty home, I planned to go to the nearby convenience store to buy a bottle of Coke and drink it while watching TV series. The convenience store was not far away, just downstairs. But as soon as I went downstairs, a black shadow covered my mouth and nose. The smell of complex chemicals made my hands and feet weak. Suran whispered in my ear, "I'm sorry, I'm still worried. The favorability is rising too slowly, so I have no choice but to do this, don't blame me." As soon as she finished speaking, I fainted. When I opened my eyes again, I was in an abandoned factory. Suran was tied to a chair like me. Her hair was messy, but she was very atmospheric. There were tears in her eyes, and she looked so pitiful. And I was not only unkempt, but also wearing a loose pajamas. The Hello Kitty on it even had one ear torn off. Look, these are the two most important women in your life," a scarred man said with a sly smile, holding up his phone. "One is your childhood sweetheart, and the other is your childhood sweetheart who just got married. Master Lin, which one should you choose?" Lin Qing yelled on the other side, "You'd better let them all go." Scarred Man and several other big guys laughed together. "You still want the best of both worlds at this time? Master Lin, you are used to a good life and want everything." Suran shed 2 lines of sad tears. "Ah Lin, save classmate Lu, she is your wife." Lin Qing said, "Don't say stupid things, and you will be safe." The kidnapper pointed the camera at me. "So, what does the childhood sweetheart want to say?" I looked at the camera expressionlessly. I put my hands together with all my strength and raised my middle finger. "Your uncle Lin Qing. If you don't save me, I'll chop you off." Everyone present. Lin Qing on the other side. To be honest, I now think Lin Qing is a disaster. Anything that has to do with him is not a good thing. "Okay, both of you have finished talking," Scarface said. "Next, it's your turn." He stood in the middle and pointed the blade at the two of us. "Who would you choose?" Lin Qing was silent for a long time. Suran cried silently and whispered, "Choose classmate Lu. Although classmate Lu has done some bad things before, she is not only your childhood sweetheart, but also your wife." Damn it. I looked at Suran in shock. What a strong pot of tea. Suran's self-talk attracted the dissatisfaction of Scarface. He punched Suran in the abdomen and said viciously, "You're the only one who talks too much." Suran's face was twisted and looked very painful. "I will kill you," Lin Qing said coldly on the other side. "Absolutely. So, have you decided who to save?" Scarface said with a wicked smile. Lin Qing was silent for a long time. I looked at Suran's delicate profile and noticed the slightly raised corners of her mouth. She also glanced at me, her eyes full of determination. After a while, Lin Qing spoke, "Let Suran go." As expected. I sighed. I accepted the result expressionlessly. To be honest, in the few seconds when he didn't say the name, I also imagined that the identity of Qingmei would be useful. But reality can't beat the bright white moonlight. Good choice. Good choice. The kidnapper was overjoyed. I glanced at the scarred man who was the leader. I thought to myself, since Suran had set up the trap, he wouldn't really do anything to me. But then I saw Suran's pitying eyes towards me. And the sound of the scarred man's accomplices loading their guns. Alarm bells rang in my heart. Lin Qing comforted me. "Lu Ran, don't be afraid. I will find your exact location soon." The reason I saved Suran first is purely because she is too delicate and easily hurt. Don't think too much. I looked at Suran, who was secretly proud of himself. I felt a little complicated. I sighed and didn't respond to him. Instead, I asked him, "Lin Qing, guess why I lost my memory?" Lin Qing was confused. "Why?" "Because I almost died." I showed a bright and bitter smile. I actually came to conquer you, but I didn't expect you to be so difficult to conquer. Because the conquest failed, the system will erase me. Do you know the meaning of the word erase? Just like an eraser erases the marks left by a pencil, it will kill me and erase me. But I want to live so much. I want to see you a few more times, so I made a deal with the system. Use all my memories in exchange for my survival. Lin Qing's voice trembled. Why didn't you ever say it? Because you never gave me a chance. I looked at the camera and a tear slid across my eye. The kidnapper laughed beside him. It's so touching. Even I almost cried. What a pity. You two can only continue your relationship in the next life. He signaled to the younger brother beside him with his eyes. The younger brother understood and took out a gun and approached me. Lin Qing was heartbroken. No. I was also panicking. I kept calling the system in my mind. System. Save me. This time anything is fine. At the critical moment, I heard a sigh. The mechanical sound sounded again. This will not happen again. Boom. For a while, the sky was spinning. The factory was shaking and finally collapsed. I was wrapped in a mysterious force and stood alone on the ruins. 3 days later. News report: the local earthquake that occurred in City A on the 19th has been confirmed to have no casualties or property losses. The TV hanging on the wall of the hospital was playing the news. I looked at Su Ran in the ward, shook my head and sighed. Then I turned around and rushed into the crowd. I don't remember much about that day. I only know that I was kidnapped and the murderer was 4 people. As for why I was kidnapped, I don't know. I walked into a cafe and ordered a cappuccino. After a while, a man sat in front of me. I reminded him, sorry, there is already someone there. The man said in a hoarse voice, it's me. I suddenly realized, oh, it's you. The man looked at me, his peach blossom eyes were full of despair. Do you know my name? My smile froze on my face, and I could only shake my head. The man lowered his eyes, and suddenly a tear fell. You said you were wiped out because you failed to capture me. He said, what about now? If I give you all my favorability, can you continue to stay in this world? I said, I don't need to capture you anymore. The man clenched his fist. The atmosphere was too awkward, so I had to say something, so I praised the ring on his hand for being beautiful. The diamond almost blinded my eyes. The man was silent. I suddenly remembered something and took out a stack of white paper from my bag and handed it to him. Following the system prompt, I reminded him. Sign it. The man picked up the pen but paused several times. After signing, I put away my bag and prepared to leave, but he grabbed my clothes. I'll give you all my favorability. He said, please don't forget me again. I could only frown at him. Sir, you are so strange. Do we know each other? Walking out of the cafe, the system prompted in my ear, frowny face task completed February 3rd. Task is about to be completed. Please cheer up, host. I breathed a sigh of relief and drank 2 liters of Coke happily. In the next few days, I kept wandering around looking for opportunities to complete the task. But nothing was found. Until in the park not far from the cafe, someone grabbed my clothes. The unfamiliar face was very eye-catching. I have always been very patient with handsome guys. So I asked him, excuse me, what can I do for you? I can't download the express version. My phone doesn't have enough memory. The handsome guy looked at me with mixed emotions in his eyes. Can you call me Alan? Such a strange request. But I still agreed to his request. Alan. I called softly. But I was suddenly distracted. A young figure suddenly appeared in my mind. He was wearing a white shirt and carrying a school bag, walking carelessly on the road. Strange and familiar. Thank you. After the handsome guy said this, he left without looking back. But I was still stunned in the same place, repeating the word over and over again. Lin. At night, I dreamed of a person who hadn't dreamed for a long time. He was still wearing a white shirt and walking on the road. This time, he stood steadily under the yellow poplar tree. He took off the white wired earphones on his left ear and turned his head. He said helplessly, "How long will you take the photos? We're almost late." Although he said that, he just looked at me tenderly. In my dream, a DV camera suddenly appeared in my hand. I put away the DV camera and ran towards him with a smile. The early morning sun shone on us. The path leading to the school was full of flowers and sunshine. In countless afternoons after class, I poked the back of the person in front of me and whispered, "Alan, lend me a math book. I forgot to write it this morning." Although the boy said, "When did you remember?" he still reached out to the desk. The handwriting on the homework book was neat and tidy. The boy turned his head and sighed, "It won't happen again." But it happened every time. On an afternoon when the sound of cicadas was deafening, we took the bus to the bookstore. I chattered in my seat and talked. He held the handrail and listened patiently. Suddenly, the car shook and the glass broke. The flames and painful cries spread in the air. The dream was interrupted at this moment. I opened my eyes and gasped. My skin was burning. The burning sensation was strong. It seemed like I had really been to the gates of hell. I traveled to many places. The scenery was beautiful, but I always felt something was strange. It was like living under a camera. Until one day, I came across a delicious restaurant and ate there for several days in a row. The waitress, who was already familiar with me, smiled and said, "Sister, you are very lucky." I asked her puzzledly why. She smiled and looked at the corner. "There has been a handsome guy following you. I guess he wants to add you on WeChat, but doesn't dare." Then she exclaimed, "Such a handsome guy can actually have a shy side." I felt cold on my back. The discomfort I had felt these days finally had an answer. I wanted to get rid of that person, but I couldn't get rid of him no matter what I did. Just like chewing gum stuck to hair, only cutting hair can completely remove it. The system told me, he is the hero of this book. For various reasons, the plot will always tie you together. I asked it, "Is there no other way?" The system replied, "Only return to the real world." At that moment, I suddenly realized. It turns out that as long as I am still in this world in the book, I will never be free. So the last item of the task is to return to the real world. Otherwise, I will still fail the task and be wiped out in the end. I was discouraged. This is an impossible task. I don't even know how I got into the book. How do I know how to get out? But the system suddenly said, "Don't be afraid. You will get out." It was like a reassurance pill, which made me feel much more at ease. Days passed by. The system had ignored me for a long time, and no matter how I called it, it didn't respond. Until one afternoon, I took a nap and remembered all my memories before I got into the book. It turns out that my name is not Lu Ran, but Xia Shou. The boy who kept appearing in my dream is Lin Xiaozhu, and my memory was rebuilt bit by bit. I remembered why I came here. I also remembered who is the so-called system that has been silently accompanying me. Reminder, the task progress has been completed, and the host will be teleported back to the real world. Please prepare. The mechanical sound that has not been heard for a long time sounded again. I chuckled and said helplessly, "You still like to take the initiative, Lin Xiaozhu." The system was silent for a long time, and finally only uttered, "Sorry." I asked him, "Will you accompany me back?" Lin Xiaozhu said, "I will turn into time and accompany you to the end of the world." Before I could speak, a white light suddenly flashed in front of my eyes. The boy in a white shirt took my hand and walked a long road with me. Finally, as the surrounding scenery gradually became clear, he turned into stars. The only thing left was a piece of paper. The words on the note were neat but powerful. "I hope you can walk freely in the sun like a poem with shining edges. Measure the earth unfettered. A life that can be freely dominated. I am my last gift to you. So, goodbye. I held the small note. And cried bitterly. Until someone woke me up. During the noisy class break, the teenagers in school uniforms looked at me worriedly. What's wrong with you, Xiaoshou? My classmate with a high ponytail took a few pieces of paper to wipe my tears. Why are you crying suddenly? It's so scary. I blinked blankly. I don't know why. The classmates wanted to ask something else, but the next second the head teacher walked into the classroom and knocked on the blackboard with a ruler. The classmates surrounding me had to give up. Quiet. Quiet. The classroom gradually became quiet. The head teacher stood on the podium and said, "Let me introduce you to our new classmate. He just transferred from the next city this semester. He may not be able to adapt to the new things. Please take care of him." Then he looked at the door and said, "Come on, Xiaozhu, introduce yourself to everyone." The boy walked into the classroom with his school bag on his back. Standing on the podium, even the sun favored him, shining his hair. "Hello, everyone. My name is Lin Xiaozhu.